Matt Poitras made an immediate impact in a 2-1 win over the Los Angeles Kings on Saturday, and he could very well be an X factor for this team this season.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Monday, October 14th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And before we get started, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, I'm dropping this episode a bit earlier than usual because the Boston Bruins have a matinee here on Monday against the Florida Panthers. And I wanted to take you through the storylines, stats, and signals from Saturday's 2-1 overtime win over the Los Angeles Kings before the Bruins take on the Panthers. And the big storyline for me on Saturday was the return of Matt Poitras to the lineup and the immediate impact that he had. Poitras had not played since January, and well, there's still some rust to be shaken off and some conditioning to be had. Poitras looked, as always, determined to make an impact no matter where he was playing in the lineup. The thing with Poitras is that he always seems to rise to the occasion. Anytime there's some questions about his durability or whether he can hang at the NHL level or whether he can make a significant impact to justify keeping him up with the Boston Bruins as opposed to last season, sending him back to the OHL, or this season, having him start in the AHL. He always rises to the occasion. And the best way I could describe his game is Krejci-esque. He is very reminiscent of the style of play that we saw for years from David Krejci. Now, Poitras was playing on the third line here in this game, but immediately gave the team a jolt, replacing Riley Tufte, allowing Trent Frederic to be shifted to the wing, playing with Justin Brazeau, and that trio was fantastic. And Poitras, specifically, you could tell that he had added some bulk over the summer. The added weight isn't hindering his speed and quickness, and he put his frame to good use. He's so good at being able to cycle the puck, find some players, get into the offensive zone, make things happen, disrupting the play offensively and defensively. Pastrnak, after the game, said, and David Pastrnak, of course, scoring the overtime game winner that was created by Poitras. Pastrnak said, obviously, Matt hasn't played a meaningful game in a long time. They were all happy to see him back. It's never fun being injured. They're happy he's back, and it's incredible how strong on the puck he is. For his size, he's very good and impressive with that. So that's one thing that probably sticks out the most. It's hard to take the puck away from him, and it's impressive for his size. Pastrnak, of course, had a bunch of experience playing with David Krejci, maybe not as much as he wanted, but same kind of thing. Krejci's not the biggest guy, but so strong on the puck, hard to take it away from him, and he makes things happen. Poitras, not afraid to shy from contact either, and he was instrumental in creating scoring chances for whether it was Brazeau, Frederic, or Pastrnak, who he found himself on the ice with in overtime alongside Mason Lohrei. Poitras did not have a shot on net, but he was effective all up and down the ice, and he did pounce on a turnover in overtime, found Pastrnak on an outlet feed before he had to head to the bench because he was at the end of a shift. Didn't have to wait long, though, before seeing the light, shined behind the Kings net as Pastrnak and Lohrei had a bit of a give and go to set up the game winner. Poitras, that turnover, found Pastrnak and Lohrei played the give and go. Lohrei shot it on Kemper, and Pastrnak buried the rebound for the overtime game winner. Definitely builds confidence, Poitras said. He's hoping to get his conditioning back, feel better than he did yesterday, play whatever minutes they're giving him, and just keep doing his thing. And his thing is very effective for the Boston Bruins. It's very reminiscent, again, of what David Krejci brought to the table. He earned praise from Pastrnak, the coaching staff, Brad Marchand even, and Montgomery went so far as to say Saturday was Poitras' best game in a Bruins uniform. And there was also some praise for the checking line, which continues to stand out. That's my other big storyline from the day. We'll get into the stats more coming up after the break, but I wanted to highlight a key stat here in praise of that Poitras line as well as the fourth line. Among all Bruins forwards on Saturday, here's how they ranked in terms of shot attempt differential while they were on the ice. Matt Poitras, 72.73%. Justin Brazeau, 69.23%. Trent Frederick, 66.67%. Mark Kastelic, 64.71%. John Beecher, 64.29%. And Cole Koepke, 55.56%. Those are all your bottom six forwards for the Bruins, leading the way in shot attempt differential while they're on the ice, while the top two lines struggled a bit with the Kings' better players on the ice going minus, and in some cases, quite severely, as a guy like Elias Lindholm, who we'll give some props for later as a goal scorer in this one, but he was on the ice for one shot attempt generated at 5-on-5 against 14 for the Kings. Just absolutely caved that whole line. That's a 6.67 shot attempt differential. So full praise to Matt Poitras and his new look line alongside Trent Frederick and Justin Brazeau. And the fourth line continues to pitch in as well, really doing a lot of heavy lifting for the Bruins while the top six kind of struggled overall. And that's reflective in the overall numbers. And we'll look at these stats and some signals that we can take away from that game more here as the podcast continues. If you're looking to hire, there's no better place to check out than Indeed.com. It's your hiring platform that acts more as a matching platform than anything, because they bring you not only the highest quantity of candidates, but also the highest quality candidates as well. You don't just hire faster with Indeed. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. The more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Boston Bruins. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now let's discuss some key stats. Obviously the biggies, goals. Elias Lindholm, despite being wildly out-attempted while he was on the ice, with a shot differential as well of 0 at 5-on-5. He did, however, get a goal. So I don't know how that tracks. He got a goal at the 1650 mark of the second period, beating Darcy Kuemper for his second goal of the season. And in all situations in this one, Lindholm's shot differential was a bit more respectable. 9 against 8-4. So it was 47.06 in all situations. And his goal, let's just see here what we have via natural stat trick. Yeah, his goal, first point, and the first goal for the Bruins. He continues to play very, very well for the Bruins in his beginning of his tenure of this 7-year, $7 million per season contract. Lindholm currently has 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points through 3 games. That's a pace of, 137 points. He's not going to maintain that pace, but it's still a huge improvement already over what he achieved last season with the Canucks and the Flames. He only had 15 goals and 44 points. He's well on pace to crush that season and perhaps even challenge his career high, which was 42 goals and 82 points back in 2021-22. It would be amazing to see that kind of production out of Lindholm. Pastrnak had his 3rd goal in as many games, and he is on pace again to challenge for 50, perhaps even 60 goals this season. Overall, the Bruins, not the most impressive game from a underlying numbers perspective. There's about 40 minutes of this game was played at 5-on-5, and the Bruins had 48% of the shot attempts, 43% of the shots taken, 44% of the scoring chances, and 44.73% of the expected goals, 20% of the high danger chances. So Jeremy Swayman in this one, really helping the Bruins to come out on top. Swayman had an excellent day, 34 shots on goal from the Kings, and he made 33 saves for a .971 save percentage. Darcy Kuemper was great at the other end of the ice as well. 25 shots for the Bruins, 23 saves. But again, the Bruins outshot 34-25. And that is something that continues to plague them time and time again. For the season, yes, it's a small sample size, but 5-on-5, they ranked 23rd in shot attempt differential. They've generated 112. They've given up 131 shots, 50 for the Bruins, 62 for the opposition at 5-on-5. And their save percentage is not great so far either. They rank 28th. Now, of course, a large part of that was Jonas Korpisalo's debut. Swayman not playing particularly amazing in the home opener, but hopefully this is more of what we can expect from Jeremy Swayman moving forward. Shots on goal for the Bruins. They were led in this stat once again by, it wasn't David Pastrnak this time. Brad Marchand had 4 shots on goal. He's still in search of his first goal of the season. Hampus Lindholm leading the way with 5 shots on goal from the point for the Bruins. And overall, kind of a quiet game offensively, obviously, but they were led in points by 4 players who tied with 1. Pastrnak with the goal, Lindholm with a goal, Marchand with an assist, Lohrei with an assist, and Poitras with the assist. And the big thing was having those 2 youngsters on the ice at the same time in overtime, which is huge. And that perhaps signals that these are a couple guys that we all expected would make a big impact for the Bruins this season in their second-ish pro seasons. Obviously, they both made their debuts last year, but they were shortened seasons. Both guys, if they can make a next step in their development this season, could be X factors for the Boston Bruins, giving the Bruins 3 fairly balanced lines. I'm still not convinced that second line is the answer. Maybe we'll see at some point Frederick Poitras with somebody else on the second line. Maybe eventually they sign Tyler Johnson and put him up there, or they give Justin Brazeau a look up there as well. But here are some takeaways from this game for me. Matt Poitras, excellent. He's going to be an X factor for the Bruins. If he can continue this incredible puck possession, playmaking, just an effort, all-around effort up and down the ice. Just a tremendous talent who always rises to the challenge. Mason Lohrei was scratched for the second game. He was back in there. A much better effort. 15 minutes and 54 seconds of ice time. And when it comes to the underlying numbers, he did not have a very strong debut in that game against the Panthers. He was a -3 overall, if you care about that stat. In this one, he, as Bessie jumps on the podcast here, he had one shot attempt. He did have the assist on Pastrnak's game-winning goal, of course. And when it comes to shot attempt differential at 5-on-5, Mason Lohrei was an even 50, 11-4, 11 against. And that's better than some of his defensive counterparts. Andrew Peeke was a 30% player. So hopefully this is what we can expect more from Lohrei here. It's not going to be a perfect player, but hopefully he's allowed some development to grow. And of course, Jim Montgomery praised Lohrei in this one afterwards as well for responding to that benching. And then again, Jeremy Swayman stepped up. It was by far his best of the two starts. And with the Bruins not having back-to-backs until the end of November, he could be really counted on to carry a heavier load here and then get some rest down the stretch with Korpisalo coming in for some back-to-backs. I would very much expect Swayman to be in net on Monday against the Florida Panthers, and that's a game that we'll preview here as the podcast continues. It's time once again to discuss our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL fans can get a huge return on FanDuel to start this season. All you have to do to get started is visit FanDuel.com, place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So in this game against the Panthers, maybe you think David Pastrnak is going to score once again. Drop $5. Get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. And then when you have a hunch in the middle of games, you can check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So easy, so handy. Visit FanDuel.com, download the app, and get in on the action at America's #1 sportsbook. For the second time so far in this young season, our Boston Bruins will be taking on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, and it'll be a different look for this team here than we had just last week because Aleksander Barkov will be out at least 2 to 3 weeks for the Panthers with an injury, and Matthew Tkachuk missed the previous game as well with an illness. So the Bruins could be getting a very depleted lineup here for the Panthers. Tkachuk likely to be in, depending on the severity of his sickness, but the Bruins definitely will not have to face Aleksander Barkov, and that's a huge bonus because he is such an important player for this team. So far, the Panthers have rolled off a record of 1-2-0. So they're not coming out too hot out of the gate, but of course their win did come at the expense of our Boston Bruins. They're led in scoring so far by Sam Bennett. It's got 4 points, 3 of which are goals. The Bruins are led in scoring by Lindholm, who's got 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists. David Pastrnak leading the way with 3 goals. Spencer Knight got the start the other night. Not super sharp in that one. I would expect them to go back to Bobrovsky. He's 1-1 with an .897 save percentage. Swayman, 2-0 with a .914 save percentage in this one. How do they stack up early on? Boston's power play is rolling at 14.3%, which is good for only 21st. But Florida, 27th overall with 10%. Boston's penalty kill has been very strong. They've killed 94.1%. Florida's only killed 80% of theirs so far. So with Barkov out of the lineup, the Bruins could be catching Florida at a good time here, and they won't see them again until January. Bruins are averaging 4 goals per game, which is good for 5th in the NHL. However, they're allowing 3.67, which is 21st. The Panthers, 3 goals per game so far, 6 of which came against the Bruins. 4 goals allowed per game. So the Bruins could be, again, catching Florida at a good time here. They beat the Bruins, but now they've lost since to the Ottawa Senators and the Buffalo Sabres. The Bruins, after losing to Florida, beat Montreal. They beat a pretty good Kings team in overtime. And again, hopefully they're able to take advantage of a fairly depleted Panthers lineup, especially if both Tkachuk and Barkov are out of the lineup. Barkov for sure will be out of the lineup. The Panthers, despite the 1-2 record, still got some good underlying stats. 5-on-5, they rank 8th in shot attempt differential at 54.06. Shot differential, they a bit further down at 9th. And what is hurting them so far, save percentage, they are just a bit better than the Bruins, although that Korpisalo game certainly threw things off for the Bruins. It is an afternoon game, so we got to be wary of that. If you're fantasy hockey, make sure you got your guys in the lineup. And it's one of a couple afternoon games. The Kings will be in Ottawa, Utah taking on New Jersey. So a few 1 p.m. games to keep an eye on today. The Bruins, after this one, will be hitting the road for a 3-game Western Conference road trip, and it would be great to get this W over the Panthers because their next 3 games will not be easy at all. They'll take on the Colorado Avalanche on Wednesday, the Utah Hockey Club, who's on fire to start the season, on Saturday, and then the Nashville Predators next Tuesday. And then even after that, it doesn't get much easier this month. Dallas, Toronto, Philly, and Carolina still on deck. So it's really important to take advantage of this one with Barkov certainly out of the lineup and Tkachuk possibly as well. But if he's even relatively healthier, then he should probably be good to go. And of course, will be as disruptive as ever. So yeah, Sam Bennett scored a couple goals against the Bruins. He leads the team, and the Bruins will be looking to shut him down for sure. So very encouraging win over the Los Angeles Kings on Saturday, that 2-1 win. It's a big game from Swayman. Poitras making a difference. Lohrei getting in on the action, which will hopefully boost his confidence. And the fourth line continuing to roll along. Some heavy lifting from the top 2 lines. That second line really has yet to click for the Boston Bruins. And hopefully they're able to get on the board at least here with Coyle, Marchand, and Geeky all looking for their first goals they've combined for 2 assists among those 3 players, both of them coming from Brad Marchand. So if that line can't get it going anytime soon, perhaps a shakeup will be coming, or the addition of Tyler Johnson. That's it for today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me here on Locked On Boston Bruins. Please do check out the Locked On Fantasy show next. All the latest tips and expert advice to give you the upper hand in your fantasy league, hosted by Flip and Steele. Subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already, and we'll be back on Tuesday with a recap of whatever happens on Monday afternoon against the Florida Panthers. Happy Thanksgiving Monday to all my Canadian friends. And I believe it is a U.S. holiday as well. What do we got down there? I'm not really sure. Anyways, happy holiday, whatever the day is down in the States. October 14th, U.S. holiday. I want to guess what it is, but I'm not going to. Columbus Day? Is that what it is? I guess so. Anyways, take care, friends. Thank you for listening today, and please do subscribe if you have not already. And take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.